right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the iRise experience. My name is Kamia Slaughter. I'm the Secretary and Community Service and Engagement Chair for iRise Wellness. And I am here with a very special guest today who's going to introduce herself in a minute. And we're here to talk about achieving balance. So it's all you.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jada Story-Finley. I am actually a registered nurse by background. I now have a new position, and we'll kind of talk more about that. But I basically work in nursing leadership now. And so my whole world is nursing.
Yes. And she's being modest, y'all. She's Dr. Jada Story-Finley. So let's be clear there. Congratulations always on your accomplishments. So
Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to hear what you have to share with us today. So I guess I'll start off with a broad question. What does balance mean to you?
What does balance mean to me? I think I will start off by saying that I think at different points, not even in my life, but in different seasons of my life, balance means different things. But I think right now, balance means juggling my career while not letting that spill over into my personal life, while also still making time for self-care for myself. So I think those are kind of the three things that I'm really balancing right now.
That's really interesting. And I like what you said, juggling. So I immediately went to an image of my mind of somebody juggling, and then at times that tipping over and then the ball's falling down and things. So it's always just a sort of push and pull there. I think one of the things I think about is like a scale that, in one season I had a bunch of stuff just weighing me down, and then another season a few of those things are taken off my plate, and then I move on to something else. So
yeah, and I will say it's never a perfect balance, but I try to keep them as even as possible. But again, sometimes they spill over into one another, but I try to be mindful that I'm not putting too much into one area so much that I'm taking away from another area, but it's a constant struggle.
Right. I definitely understand that. So I first met you as an undergraduate. And I know your degree program was really, really demanding and challenging. So will you talk a little bit about college and then your professional career and background and how that sort of took shape in your life?
Yeah, so thinking about balance across the board from that far back, let's kind of start from the beginning. We'll start with undergrad. So when I first got into my nursing program for undergrad, that was a big challenge there because balance had to look a lot different in order to be successful in that program than I had been in all my kind of prerequisite classes. So before I've been able to kind of balance having friends, that was a big point in my life. It's undergrad, it's college, you're finally there, you got friends, you're hanging out, you have a boyfriend, you got all this stuff going on. So that was a big part of my life, just living a life. But then once I transitioned into my nursing undergraduate program, I kind of was forced to kind of, I guess, mitigate or bring down some of that time that I was spending with friends and kind of put more focus on school and making sure that I was successful there. And that kind of continued throughout. Once I've actually finished that program, school was a big priority in my life. And I'll say at that time, I minimized spending time with friends, hanging out, things like that. I minimized self-care. And I also minimized family. My sole priority was being successful in that program. And I was successful, but again, I had to put a lot of things to the side in order to get there. So fast forward, and I finished that program, and I have to go into the workforce now as a registered nurse. And then I had to discover a new type of balance because I spent so much time on school. It was so demanding that once I got to work as a nurse, full-time is 3 days a week. So I had 4 days, and I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm going crazy. I've got to be doing something else because my whole world was school, just school. And so I was really I struggled for a whole year. I'm not sure if I ever really found that balance during that time, but I struggled learning how to be a nurse in the real world versus what to do with your free time. So I had a lot of free time, but I wasn't really doing a lot of self-care because I had never done that before. And I was so stressed about what to do in my free time that I never actually really did anything, if that makes sense. So, but I did try to, I guess, bring more balance in my relationship at the time with my now husband, but my boyfriend at the time. And so I tried to put a lot of time and effort there. So I did spend a lot of my free time trying to do things with him while also balancing work. But there was always something inside of me that was like, if something's missing, you got to do more. And so I don't know if I need to go ahead and talk about grad school or if you want me to say anything else about that situation.
Yeah, well, a few follow-up things. You talked about your nursing program, and I know you, and I know you're super organized, and you always kept a planner and things. So you talk about sort of your organizational strategies.
Yes. So I'm trying to think back to undergrad. Um, Trying to think. I've always been a planner person. I've got to have a planner. I like to write things down. I'm a checklist. I physically have to check things off. It just makes me feel good. So I have to do that. Planner is a big thing for me. And I like to plan in advance as much as I can, which is a great thing because with school, you get a syllabus up front and you can plan out the whole semester. So I absolutely love that. Unfortunately, sometimes it looks a lot different for your personal life because typically with that, you can't plan out, 4 months at a time. So trying to sprinkle those things in there can be a little bit difficult, but I like to plan as much as possible.
Yeah, I know it, and it's something that I really admire about you. That's really a good trait and habit to have. You also mentioned a sentiment of like you always like gotta be doing something. So I'm wondering like what are your sort of ideas, conceptions about productivity?
Yeah.
Do you believe in it? How do you sort of approach the idea of that?
Oh, so I love to be productive. That can be a good and a bad thing because sometimes you need to redefine what productivity looks like. But I will say this, and this is something that I've kind of reached out in therapy about as well, how to find a healthy balance of being productive. Because at some points in my life, I definitely was overworking myself in certain areas. And for me, that was school, just trying to overachieve, trying to do more, trying to do more, trying to do more. And I will say that even if you do those things and even if you achieve those accolades or things like that, sometimes if you don't really work on what it is that you're working towards inside, even if you get those degrees, even if you get the accolades and the acronyms behind your name, it doesn't fix the problem. You can get that, you can achieve it, and you'll still have that same feeling of wanting something inside of you. So that's when we'll kind of get there in a bit, but that really made me take a step back and realize that yes, I was very productive, but I didn't really take the time to do the self-care to figure out what inside of me was causing me to want to be this productive, if that makes sense. So I think everybody has to find what's driving them to do that. And there's nothing wrong with being productive and being successful, but I think you need a healthy balance of that so that it's not your entire world, which is what productivity was to me at one point. But now I kind of look at that in a different light, understanding that it's okay if I don't do 45 things a day. If I do 10, that's a win.
Right, absolutely. Whenever I hear the word productivity, I think one of the first things that comes to mind is product. Like I need to produce something, emphasis on the thing. And I think sometimes, especially like in my doc program, I don't always have a full product by the end of the day, or even sometimes anything that's measurable. So I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm being less
Absolutely.
productive. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I've had to sort of reimagine like what that means for me and just yeah, I may sort of set a goal, but this may not result to something that's tangible or even visible at the end of
Yes.
this set time. So
Yes.
I think that's
Absolutely.
yes.
I feel that in my new role, and something that my director said to me is, so I would, I'm a to-do list girl, got to have a planner and things like that. So let's say one of my big tasks to do is to have this, let's just say this product at the there's not even a timeline. That's enough. You just have to have this product. Nobody's giving you a timeline or anything. So I naturally try to put myself on a timeline. But something I would do on my to-do list is I put that specific product. Let's say it's a business. I just put business. That's on my to-do list every single day. And then I feel defeated at the end of the day because it's like, I didn't get the business done. And she brought out a good point. Like, you can't get it done in one day. That's unrealistic. So what you need to do is break down that into tiny little tasks that you can actually achieve each day. Maybe today we're just reaching out to 3 stakeholders. That's what we're doing with that business today. But you can't put that big tangible goal on your list each day or you won't feel productive, because I would find myself doing a million things, but it's like, I didn't check off the business. But it's like, you can't, it's impossible. And so I think a way to feel productive is to really look at what you're putting on your to-do list and break it down and ask yourself, is that realistic? Can you really get that done in a day? And I think I saw a video that said that realistically, you only can do like 3 things complete, finish in one day. And I'm a girl, I like to put 20 things on a to-do list. And then I check off 2. And then I feel like I had a bad day. And that's not what it was. It's my to-do list was too big, or the task I put was unachievable in a day. So I think you need to be realistic with yourself. You're going to get there, but I think by breaking it down in those smaller steps, it'll make you feel more like you're achieving things on a daily basis versus kind of looking out that 6 months view. And it's like, you're never going to check that business off in one day. It's unrealistic.
Absolutely, like especially for overachievers. And you mentioned this earlier, like you went from, and I assume you meant like high school, and being an overachiever there and having things that were things came easily to you. I assume.
Yes. And
And
I didn't
then yeah,
elaborate on that, but yeah, when I was in high school, I wouldn't even call myself an overachiever. I just overachieved. I didn't have to try. It was very easy. I was very smart compared to the people around me. And I was great. I thought I was awesome at everything. And I'd go to college and I'd be perfect. Like, this is not difficult. And I never really had to try hard in high school. It just came natural. And I always got, literally, I think my GPA was over 4.0. Like, it was just super easy. And then I got to college and that changed. New world, again, finding a new kind of balance. You thought, and I think that happens for everybody in different seasons of your life. You're going to be better in some areas than you aren't in others. And I think that fluctuates. High school, academia, I was number 1. I graduated valedictorian. I get to college and I instantly feel behind. So I think shifting in that balance. And then the same thing once you graduate with your degree, once you graduated undergrad, I felt like I had achieved something great. And then you go into the workforce and now you got to learn how to apply that to the real world. So I felt down here again, as it related to work. And then school was taken away. So it's like so there has been a lot of times in my life that I feel like I've struggled to find myself, but I don't think I lost myself. I think it was trying to find balance. And I think once you transition to different seasons, you have to redefine what balance looks like for you.
yes. And you just mentioned this, like sometimes there's these structures in the workforce that sort of um I guess I should say like influence how we achieve balance. So one of the things you just mentioned was like degrees versus work experience, and that sort of like teetering between the two, and that affecting how you balance life, right? So I'm wondering if you could just talk a little bit more about your professional life. I know we focus a lot on college, so just go a little bit more into that.
Yeah. So I mentioned before, like trying to be productive, got to find something to do. I felt like once I became a nurse, like something was still missing. So then I went seeking for it and I went back to grad school, which I got my master's and my doctorate. And I did that full time while working full time, which was insane. But again, that was me again looking for that productivity. So because I put those stresses on myself, full time work, full time doing a master's and doctoral degree program, it was stressful. So again, I went back to what was now I know was comfortable for me and really putting a lot of productivity, a lot of my time into school. And something someone pointed out to me is that school has a lot of structure. School gives you like you can't just do your own thing. There's structure built in. But the reason why I feel like I personally struggled in my personal life with finding balance is there is no guide. Nobody gives you a guide on how to structure your personal life. And so I felt it, I guess it was easier to kind of navigate the school because the structure was already there. So during the time I went back to grad school, I'll say it was definitely difficult. I definitely felt like I bit off a little bit more than I could chew because I wanted to be productive and fill my spare time. And I definitely did that. There was pretty much no spare time at all. So I was trying to juggle working. At one point, I had 2 part-time jobs. I was dealing with 2 different institutions or organizations while also trying to do, your didactic work. And then being in the nursing field, you have to do clinical hours. And I was actually doing clinical hours about 2 hours away from home, which panned out to work in my favor years later, but it was difficult at the time. And during that time, the pandemic happened. I ended up getting married. It was a lot. So now I'm trying to balance, being a wife, having a husband, while also working full time, while also doing a graduate school full time. And so it was very difficult for me because even once like I got my master's, my program just continued. So I got my master's, but it didn't really feel like it because I just kept going. Like it was 2 weeks off and you get right back into it. And I was working on my DMP. So sometimes I'm glad I went to school and I did it full time, but I always tell people if I could do it again, I would do part time because I had no balance between work, life, school, personal. I just didn't. And my personal life feels like a blur. And sometimes I do regret that it feels like a blur during that time. But I was so focused on achieving these other specific goals that I didn't remember kind of, I guess, what's important to me at the core, if that makes any sense. So now that I've graduated and have a new job, is really important to me that I do really well at my new job. And I put when it's time for my job, I put all I can into my job at that time. But once those hours are over, it's over. And I've got to put time into my personal life, into my husband, into reaching out and building back relationships with my family members, because that's super important as well. And so I definitely say going through that really helped me because I was very productive, but I still didn't feel, I don't know, I thought it was going to be this happiness at the end of it because I achieved my goal. But sometimes when you're achieving a goal, but you kind of have I had a narrow view, a kind of life. And so I kind of pushed out a lot. I missed a lot. I missed weddings. I miss spending time with my family. I miss just general things, spending time at the holidays or work all the holidays. So I think now I feel like I get a do-over. And now I feel like I'm really trying to balance my family, my husband, work. I've considered going back to school, but it hasn't been as prominent and it like something in me that's like, I got to go back. But when I think about things like that now, I just don't do it on an impulse. I think, well, how's that going to fit in with what I have going on now? If I want my own family in the future, I need to think about that. I want to be able to make sure that I can give my best to all of these aspects in my life. So I really think about how that's going to spread me before I just jump into things now, which years ago I would have just jumped in and did it and ran with it. But it's super important to me now to make sure that I can at least have an idea of how to find balance. Again, it won't be perfect. It won't always look the same every day, but I try to be mindful of not spreading myself too thin. Sorry, I know that was a long answer. I can't even remember what you asked, but hopefully that answered the question.
No, absolutely. And I can relate so much to the things that you're saying. I know that we are from different but similar communities. And sometimes the idea, you know, we want to be successful, but also we just don't want to fail. And I don't think those are one and the same. So to sort of go hard early on, I think it's something that's always in the back of our minds because we want to make it. We want to make it for ourselves and also for our families and things like that. So definitely relate. So you mentioned your husband and you being a wife and things. So talk a little bit about him and your family and how you found balance between those folks.
I would say that a big driver of me even trying to find balance and looking at things in a different way is my husband. We are two completely different people, and he is so much more laid back. I'm like rigid and we've got to do it this way. And that is not him. He's so laid back. He's like, whatever happens, happens. And I'm like, I just can't deal with it. But it's so nice to have somebody like that because it lets you loosen up and really and be in the moment. That's something I've been really trying to focus on over the past years, being in the moment. And I'm a perfect type of person. I try to control everything and you just can't. You just stress yourself out. You can't. So again, that gets back to balance. I may plan to have this weekend that's fully devoted to my husband, but maybe something else kind of pops up and I need to try to do something to prepare for work, kind of like this weekend. But I say to myself, you know what? I got 2 days off. How about, I take this day and make sure that I spend time with my husband. We do something fun and then also balancing again, because my wife trying to balance, housework and things like that, but also trying to sprinkle in time for work, but also being mindful that I'm not letting work consume my whole weekend. I think that's something to keep in your mind too. Anyway, so it's just a lot to kind of think about. But again, home is home. I'm trying not to draw that line. Home is home. And when I'm home, my husband is what's most important to me. Also, with having my husband most important to me at home, I still have a family. And so my family doesn't live in town with me. And so that's something that's kind of difficult. I kind of plan with my mom and sister like a week or so ago for us to like meet up just to have lunch. And it didn't pan out, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while and trying to really reach out and do more. There's nothing stopping me from going to see them more often, other than me I'm finally home and I just want to be home. But I do think that's something that I should seek out. And my husband encourages that. So I think that's helpful too when you have somebody that's in your corner who encourages you to, maybe you should spend more time with your mom. Maybe instead of me going with you this time, you should take your mom or your sister. So that's helpful when you have a spouse that can help kind of be that mediator for you. I understand that everybody doesn't have that. But for me, he's been very helpful in helping me see things a different way because I'm very structured, rigid. This is plan A. This is how we're doing it. And that's just not him. But I'm so glad I married somebody who's not like that, because then it kind of opens my eyes to, wait, there's more to this. This is not just bad because I didn't do it this way. It's okay because we didn't do it my way. We got to see something else. So I think trying to find balance and having a plan, but don't be so rigid that you're not willing to be flexible. I think that's what I'm looking for, because a lot of times there's a lot of good that comes out of things that don't go as planned, but it's kind of like the glass half full or half empty thing is really the way that you look at it. And so even though it feels like I'm probably not, I'm a really negative person when it comes to myself because I got to be productive, but sometimes that's just not it. Sometimes, again, you just have to see it the other way, and you can find a lot of beauty in it once you actually open up your mind and say, it's okay. It wasn't balanced perfectly this weekend, but guess what? I didn't do anything for work this weekend, but we had a good time at the park. I mean, you know what I mean? Because that experience, you can never, you just have to be so grateful that you were experienced that. And I think that's something I'm focusing on now. Work's going to always be there. That's what somebody told me. It's going to be back there on Monday morning. So if you got a chance to spend with your family might not always be there. So I think just being flexible. I think flexibility helps add to you trying to find that balance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You also talked in that response, you talked about doing something fun. So just talk a little bit more about your hobbies. And earlier you mentioned therapy, if you feel comfortable sharing a little
Yes.
bit about that.
So yeah. And so a lot of times people hear therapy and they think, oh my God, what's wrong with you? Even my family thought that, like, what is wrong? It's like, nothing's wrong, but I just want to become a better person. There's always room to grow. And so maybe it's been a year and a half now going to therapy. And really, it's just a place for me to I don't have anything specific that I go to talk. It's just, I like to just talk and vent. And it's just nice to kind of get some of those things out that's kind of been swirling in your head. And I love it's just a place for me to talk, place for me to vent, have somebody who's impartial, but can help you see things in a different way. And so I recommend anybody go to therapy. I think that sometimes it can have a negative connotation. Nobody in my family has ever gone to therapy. That's why when I brought it up, it was like, what's wrong? What did we do? We raised you right. It was like, no, I'm fine, but I know that I can be better. And that gets back to kind of something I was saying before, all these other years, I never did self-care. I'm not one to do anything for myself. And so this is me doing something for myself. And I feel like it's something that's can be long lasting. And my conversations in therapy, they change each time. I don't come with anything specific. It's kind of whatever's going on to kind of talk through it. So I find it very helpful. But I definitely think, and you can't fix it in one session. I think that's something I thought going to do. I think I didn't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I'm fixed. I thought that, months in, and then I kind of felt like I took 30 steps back. But then again, let's kind of talk about this, kind of going back to like balance too. You didn't take 30 steps back. Things just kind of shift in your life. Things are more priority that weren't before. And so you just have to be flexible, if that makes sense. But I highly recommend anybody go to therapy. Again, it's just just a way for you to just relieve all the stuff that's pent up inside of you. Another way that I guess you could say it's a hobby, is I work out pretty actively. I strength train about 3 to 4 days a week. And I'm trying now to do about 120 minutes of cardio a week. I do pretty okay there, but I've been strength training for about a year and actively on the weight loss journey for about a year and a half. And so actually, when I started my, I guess, health and wellness and weight loss journey, it was not for mental purposes. When I started trying to lose weight, it was to lose weight. And so that's what jump started that. But then I met this amazing trainer that I have, who has really opened my eyes up to let me see that this isn't just weight loss. It's a lifestyle. And so now my brain is finally understanding that this is a lifestyle. This is for forever. This is not just I lose X amount of pounds and that's it. It doesn't work like that. It has been one of the most, I guess, instrumental things I've done in my life, especially since grad school. I never thought that I could say that I like working out. And some days I don't like working out, but something I do now is I actually work out in the morning before work. I cannot believe that I say that because I didn't like to work out at all. Definitely was not going to get up before work and do a whole workout and then have to go to work. Like, I couldn't believe that I was saying that. But the girl that trains me only had classes that were convenient for me in the morning. So I initially told her, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I'll do the recordings. And she said, no, you can do that, but it's really made for you to be in person. It's virtual, but in person. And I said to myself, you know what, let me just try. I'll just try to come to a couple of classes in person. And I did. And so I work out every morning, four days a week at 6 a.m. And I do that before I go to work. And so because of that, I've had to find balance in my new job because working out to me is a priority. And so I tailor my schedule at work so that I can have time to work out, come home, shower, get dressed, get breakfast, and then go to work and start my day. That's important for me. So now everybody that I work with knows like Jada's not doing an 8 o'clock meeting because I'm rushing to get there because it's important that I work out in the morning. So that's been really helpful. And one of the main reasons I like working out in the morning is, number one, you get over with and you don't have to worry about it when you come home. But it makes me feel like I've already like won for the day. I've already accomplished something. To say that I got up at 6 a.m., did a full workout, burned 400 calories, lifted heavier than I ever lifted before. And it's just now 7. It's 7. Like, I feel like I've already won for the day. No matter what happens throughout the day, I've already done something great for myself. And so working out has really become a big part. It has become a big part of my life, and it's super important. And I really try to, I'm not going to say force, but I try to encourage it on my family members because, we know that working out is good for a lot of different things. And so I've honestly changed my I guess, health lifestyle. I've probably done about a 360 since I started about a year and a half ago. And I will say that I've tried to lose weight several times, but if y'all heard, everything I was talking about before, I had a lot going on. And so it was very difficult for me to try to lose weight. I do fad diets and pop all the weight back on and, be heavier than I was before. But this time I tried to find, and my trainer helped me do this, balance. And that's what I have. So people say, well, what do you do? What kind of diet are you on? It's like, I'm not on a diet. I don't diet. I watch the calories I have. I look at my macros from time to time, and I work out hard in the gym and do cardio. That's it. I'm not on a diet. And people are super surprised when you say it. I'm like, no, I lost over 30 pounds, not on a diet. I'm mindful about what I eat. I don't box myself in. If I say that I'm going to try to eat, and people say that you shouldn't call it healthy foods, I just try to eat mindfully and not go crazy. And if I do one day, then guess what? It's okay. I just don't do that the next day. So again, that's another thing with, health and wellness, and even, working out and being physical. You don't box yourself in. It's a balance every day. Some days I'm better at doing cardio than others. And then some days I'm better at strength training. But the key thing is that I keep showing up for myself and I keep trying to do better each day. And I think if you do that, before you know it, you'll be in like a much better place than you were before.
Wow, that's amazing. I think as you sort of evolved in your sort of journey to achieve balance, I hear you say like mindfulness and also consistency, and those two things really for grounding how you approach productivity. I think earlier you looked at it as sort of this negative thing, and now you're saying, well, it's really not a negative thing. It's just how I'm looking at it, how I'm framing it, and you're doing that in ways that are more that are healthier.
Yes.
So definitely. Any final tips or recommendations for the folks about achieving balance?
I would say be patient with yourself. Just try to do at least 1% better than you did the day before. And something you can do at night is just, I was doing it for a while and I stopped doing it, but I need to go back and doing it. But I can't remember what they called it, but I think my therapist called it like a rose and a thorn. Thinking about one thing you did great today and one thing you wish that you had done a little bit better today, and letting that come into your mind, thinking about it. And that's it. We're done with the day. It's time to today, we're going to move on to the next day, and it's a brand new day. So that way you don't let whatever happened the day before that maybe you thought wasn't as good as it could have been, you don't let that linger into the next day. A rose and a thorn, you thought about it, we're going to make tomorrow better, and we won't do those things tomorrow. And it's just a simple way to do a little bit better each day. Maybe I didn't spend enough time with my family and I should have. So maybe this weekend, maybe I spend 30 extra minutes over there. That's it. simple. I think a lot of times we think with achieving balance, it's got to be this drastic change, but that's unrealistic. And sometimes it's just like the little changes we make every day. So I would say take each day at a time and just make your goal to be at least 1% better than you were the next day. And if you stay consistent with that, you'll look, and it'll be weeks that have gone by and you'll be in a much better and a different place than you were before.
Thank you so much. That was so helpful and also practical. I think that's what we all need. But that's all I have today, Jada, Dr. Jada. You were so great to talk to, and I really learned a lot, and I enjoyed listening to you and your journey. Even though I know you personally, it's always nice to just sit down and have these very like pointed conversations about a topic. Yeah. So for all the listeners out there, hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to follow and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys.